Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to episode 0 of Let's Play Jagged Alliance 1.13. I know you have questions. What the hell? Why episode 0? Well, basically this is a setup, an introduction to what we're gonna play. So this is not a gameplay video, this is more a video about which game we're playing and what mods we are using. So basically this is meant for people who want to replicate this, who want to install the same mod. Therefore there will be a number of links in the description how to do this, and we're gonna go over the game we're gonna play and the mod. So first of all, the base game we're gonna use is Jagged Alliance 2 Gold Edition from Steam. So it's a very old game. It's a XCOM kind of game. So it's isotropic view. So from a top view, so to speak. I think it's called isometric. And it's turn-based combat with firearms, grenades, stuff like that. It's a very old game, and the graphics look very old. But with this mod, it's actually bearable. So what are you doing in this game? You are creating a mercenary team to liberate a fictional country called Arulco, which has been overthrown basically by a tyrannical dictator, which you need to kill in your mission. And for that you have a certain amount of funds to create an initial strike team of mercenaries and then to establish a foothold in that country and work your way towards the capital to kill the dictator. So the game features, the base game, let's talk about that, features a ton of mercenaries you can hire with different personalities. They like or dislike to work with other mercenaries and it will affect their performance. Tactically speaking, it was, for the time, a very cool game. The AI was okay at this time. If you look at it today, not so much, but yeah, that's, I guess, progress. For the time, in my opinion, there was a ton of weapons in this game, and it was very detailed. It was not just like handgun, assault rifle, sniper rifle. There were different kind of handguns. There were revolvers, there were, machine guns, submachine guns, just normal rifles, sniper rifles, rocket launchers. Very detailed, in my opinion. Really more like an RPG than a shooter, so to speak. And it was all really fun. There was a lot of funny moments in this game, a lot of funny personalities, and it of course gave inspiration to my username on YouTube and other platforms actually, which I will get into in the next episode why that is. So let's look over the Jagged Alliance 1.13 feature list, which is kind of big as you can see. But some of these features are actually not for players but for modders who want to mod the game even further, so we're not gonna go over everything in detail but over most of it. First of all, there's features carried forward from the White Hat team, which I suppose was the team that modded this thing beforehand. Basically, they improved automatic fire, spread fire, which is pretty awesome. Because you can, beforehand, burst and especially auto fire was pretty weird. But now let's get to the features of 1.13. As I said, links will be in the description, also links to an installation guide, how to do this. The first feature is probably the most important, the most crucial one. It gives you more resolution options, which is amazing. The original game was in 640 by 480, which, yeah, if I wanted to play that today, and I wanted to make a let's play out of that, that would look like cancer. That's just how it is. Now you have more resolutions, which is amazing. Externalized data, that again is for modders. This point is very important. Artificial intelligence upgrade. Basically, so I'll just go over it quickly. Enemies can snipe you, they can climb down and up to roofs, they will flank you, They will not start to charge at you and just die in a hail of bullets like idiots. They take cover, they use suppression fire, which is also a new feature. They use grenade launchers. They just take advantage of the gear they have, which sometimes beforehand they wouldn't. Strategic stuff, enemies from close by sectors will come and investigate if you just take over part of their town, which is kind of obvious that they would, but yeah. New difficulty level, I don't think we're gonna play on Insane, but we'll have to see. IMP features, that of course is the custom mercenary creation system in this game. In the base game you could only create one such mercenary, and basically they enabled it that you could create, I think, up to 10. It's customizable basically. And they also streamlined the creation process. Beforehand you had to go through a tedious catalog of questions which had traits attached to them, and sometimes it would not take the trait that you had selected or that you wanted. It was a bit random, and now they basically replaced that with a straight up trait selection screen, which is pretty nice. It makes it a lot faster and you actually get what you want. Militia feature. Militia is now not only bound to your conquered city sectors, but can go outside and patrol like the normal army does. So that is pretty cool. So it will come to like random battles between militia and the Arulcan army, like on just random sectors. Pretty cool in my opinion. Also, they have tweaked some of the costs of training militia. You can now train veteran militia in certain areas. Also, you can order the militia around the tactical map, which is amazing. Because beforehand, militia, the AI of the militia was brainless, to say the least. They would just run into enemies head first and get gunned down by the dozen if you actually played out the battle instead of auto-resolving. So, yeah. Weather effects, so thunderstorms will be a thing, which is cool. Items and attributes, they added a few hundred new guns, which is amazing. I mean, the base game had a ton of guns, and now they added even more. New armor, including camouflage armor like a ghillie suit. New like night vision goggles. Armor that can carry items. This is basically tied to their new inventory system. I'll explain that later. New ammo types. Beforehand there were 3 ammo types. Normal ammo that would just deal a base amount of damage to targets. Armor piercing that would deal less damage than normal ammo, but it would penetrate armor. So if the enemy target was wearing armor, it was more advantageous to use armor penetration than normal, obviously. And the opposite of that, so to speak, hollow point, which would do more damage against unarmored targets, but virtually no damage against armored targets. Now, new ammo types. AET, Advanced Energy Transfer, which is a combination of hollow point and armor penetration, but it will pretty much tear up your weapon, because it's a trade-off. You get super potent ammo, but your gun is going to shit. So yeah, it's your choice. Glosser, which is hollow point on speed. It deals twice the damage. Of course, to unarmored targets. Against armored targets, it's twice as useless. Tracer, which will increase your accuracy with auto and burst fire, which I think that's a nice touch. Match, which will increase the weapons range. Also pretty cool. Lockbuster, which does exactly what it says. Depleted uranium, very powerful and very rare. Deals massive amount of damage and eats away opponent's armor to the boot. Yeah, if we're gonna find some of this is gonna be great. Cold loaded, which is basically, if I understand this correctly, it's when you take a bit of powder out of a round, so the explosion is less loud, but of course the power is decreased, so it's more for stealth missions. But cold loaded is available in like AP, hollow point, and glosser variants, so it's like a combined round. It's kind of weird. New grenades, heavy explosives, multiple new grenade launchers, more RPGs, burnable gas, which apparently you can throw a gas grenade and then light it on fire to create like a massive explosion, which sounds amazing. And now, new load-bearing equipment. That's the new inventory system. Basically, beforehand you had two things that would restrict your inventory. One was an amount of slots that you had. You had, I think, 8 small slots and 4 big ones. So each mercenary could technically carry 4 rifles and then 8 like minor items, magazines, first aid kits, stuff like that. And the second restriction was like their carrying capacity, which is determined by their strength. And if you would go over that, they would lose a lot of energy during walking. They would get tired very, very quickly. And now the new system has like a variable inventory system. For example, you have a base amount of slots available, and if you wear, for example, a tactical vest with additional pockets, you get more slots. So stuff like that. If you have a holster, you can get an additional gun into this. That will not take up a normal inventory slot. So there's a lot of these kind of things that make the game more realistic and more awesome in my opinion. New attachments. There's a ton of new stuff. Reflex sights, match sights, scopes, suppressors, folding, retractable stops, foregrips, laser aiming models. Everything amazing. And we'll of course experience all of these things in the game. I just looked over this features list and it was so full of stuff that I need to actually see in game to really figure out what they do. New camouflages. That was a bit weird in the old game. There was camouflage, and when you applied it you got this kind of wood camouflage, and it would help in every terrain, which was kind of weird. You know, like a wood camouflaged guy in the desert was not visible for some reason. They changed that up now, so you have 3 different camouflage types. So the wood type, which is the original one, the desert type, and the urban type. So you have to change your camouflage depending on the area you're fighting in, which is cool. Some new other items changes, that sniper rifles mostly will have scopes attached to them, stuff like that. Enemies will have up to 2 attachments on their weapons, because before that enemies rarely used attachments for some reason, which is weird. Initial game settings. So this is all the options you have available before you start the new game. You can choose difficulty level, of course, Bobby Ray selection, which is the selection of the in-game weapon shop, which the better the selection is, the easier the game is, obviously, because you can order like high power rifles and stuff. Max IMP characters. As far as I've seen, you can set it to up to 10 custom characters, which maybe we might do that, because that's kind of interesting. Skill traits. Basically, this you can set it to old mode, which is like it was in the original, or new mode. The new mode differentiates the traits a bit better between major and minor traits, which makes them more distinguishable from each other, which I think is very cool. Inventory, the old and new inventory system, that's the thing that I explained before. And there's also an old and new weapon attach system. The old system, it was like this. Each weapon has 4 attachment slots, and you could put in these slots basically everything that fits. So I think you could put in a barrel extension and a silencer and, I don't know, a scope and a hollow point and laser point sight, something like that, regardless of it making sense or not. And now the new system, the amount of attachment slots depends on the weapon. So for example, like a tiny revolver will only have like 3 slots. It will maybe have a muzzle slot, maybe a magazine slot, and probably a rail slot for like a scope, while bigger weapons will have more slots, and each slot is for a specific part of the gun, so only specific attachments will go there, which is a lot more realistic in my opinion. Enemy drop all items. This is an option which is controversial, I would say. Because on one hand, dropping all items is super realistic, but it makes the game way easier, probably. I myself know the dilemma with this, because I dungeon master for a pen and paper RPG group, and basically you're always faced with this dilemma if you want to throw a super strong enemy with an awesome weapon in the way of the group. And of course you kinda hope that they would beat him. And if they do, of course they will get his weapon, why wouldn't they? And now you basically handed them a free awesome weapon, which is kinda weird, because you want your group to progress, but not that fast. So this is kind of the same deal. That drop all items is actually kind of cool, but it will make you progress a lot faster, so to speak. Progress speed of item choices, this will kind of offset that, I think, because it will make enemies get better weapons faster if you put this up a few notches. So basically, in the core game, there was like a set progression of when you take this city, the enemy will have about these weapons. If you take the second city, they will get a little upgrade. And with this, you can actually customize this, how fast this will happen, which is cool. Extra difficulty, that's the same as before. Available arsenal, so we're gonna play with ton of guns, which will let you play with everything that's available, which is 700 plus items. Amazing, in my opinion. Number of terrorists, so there's like a side mission where you have to hunt terrorists, and you could put this on random, which is the original game mode, which means you don't know how many of these terrorists are in Arulco, or you can put in all, which means all of the terrorists will be there. Same with secret weapon cache. There's like sometimes you will find weapons at certain places, and you can randomize these, or you can say all of them are there. There's some characters that will show up from unfinished business, which is like a it's not a sequel really, it's like half of a sequel, a standalone add-on. I don't know how you would call it, but yeah, Gaston, Stogie, Tex and Biggins, which I like these characters. I've played Unfinished Business. They're really cool. Maybe we'll hire them at some point, hopefully. A lot of new keyboard shortcuts, which I'll try to learn all of them before we start the game, but well, we'll see. Let's see what else is there. This is all modding stuff. Multiplayer, I've seen this and my mind started to explode. I cannot imagine multiplayer in Jagged Alliance. I need to test that with somebody. Cooperative deathmatch, team deathmatch. That's amazing. That would be on the same level as Skyrim multiplayer. Mind blown, you know. Enhanced item descriptions, suppression fire, which is a new mechanic. Basically, what this does is if your mercenary or an enemy is under severe fire, they will start to, you know, they will start to drop to the floor. They will lose action points, so they will be able to move far less in the next turn. And how this works is they calculate each bullet or each explosion that happens nearby or flies by. They start to stack up, what do they call them? Suppression points. At a certain limit, they will start to take away your action points. So each like further bullet will take away more action points. And this can actually get into the minus area, which means even next turn you will be like severely unable to do anything. And if it reaches critical mass, you'll basically like drop to the floor cowering in fear. Which is a cool mechanic, just the, you know, the imagination that you can sit there with your heavy machine gun and just let it rain down range and just to make an enemy cower in fear, which is pretty awesome. Of course it can happen to you guys as well, so it's give or take. New additional mercs, this is again modding stuff. General gameplay changes, 0 stats are trainable. This is a cool thing in my opinion. Beforehand, stats that were on 0 were basically mean that your character is unable to do this and will never be able to. So if you had like medicine 0, that means you cannot heal other players. It's just not possible. And now you can actually train the stats, which is pretty awesome. AP is now based on 100. This is quite an interesting change. Beforehand, your mercenaries could basically have 25 action points per round, in top condition, I think. And now they scaled it up to 100. So it's a scale up, so it does not mean you move faster, you move further, you can shoot more. That's not what it means. They just stretched it. So basically they also scaled up the movement cost. Why did they do this? Basically, it allows for more differentiation between different weapons. That's the biggest part. For example, if you have 10 guns and you want every gun to have a different AP cost per shot, if you only have 25 AP max, that is very hard to differentiate effectively. But if you scale it up to 100, you can put in very fine differences, which will be very noticeable, but are not too drastic. So that's why they did it, basically. A new targeting cursor, I've read through this, but I have to see it in game to actually understand it, because to me it sounds a bit weird, but we'll try the new targeting cursor. So we'll see how this works in game. Soldier tooltips, which is amazing. Basically, if you hover with your mouse over an enemy, it will tell you some information about an enemy. It will tell you if they're wearing armor or not, the general type of weapon, and whether or not they have a gas mask. This is like the basic or the limited, it's customizable what you can see. What this means is basically hollow point is viable again. Because beforehand, you could not differentiate if enemies had armor or not. Meaning, if you would fire with hollow point at an enemy, there was a chance that he had armor and you would do 0 damage, basically. And of course, he would return fire and kill you. So now you can make a conscious decision. Look at the enemy. Oh, look, he has no armor. Let's load up hollow point and waste him. Or, oh shit, he has a lot of armor. Load up the armor-piercing rounds. So that adds a lot more tactical thinking to the game. Awesome. There is some like miscellaneous fixes, which they're just small fixes, but they're pretty cool in my opinion. For example, I sometimes have playthroughs where I take my sweet time liberating the country, and in the original game, the guy who gave you the mission to do it will start to hassle you, and basically the loyalty of people with you will drop because of that. And with the patch, that will not happen anymore. So you can take your sweet time to enjoy every battle. I think it's pretty cool. The other stuff here, there's just so many minor differences that I skipped over that, you know, they're just small things, but if you're coming from the old game, you will notice them and you'll be so happy. So yeah. So now let me just show you the launcher as well. Look at this. Everything is customizable. That is amazing to me. So if you play this mod and there's a feature that you don't really like, or you think that should be changed, you can actually change it. There's so much stuff here. There's really a lot of stuff you can customize. Militia training setting. If you think, for example, the costs for training militia is too high, you can change it. Just like that. Shopkeeper inventory, clock settings, laptop settings. There's so much stuff. Of course, you can change the resolutions. You can play in window mode, which was not possible before, as far as I know. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff you can do here, and I think it's amazing. So, as I said, I put the links to everything into the description. So the link to the mod, of course, link to the Steam version of the game, which we will need for this mod, and instruction options, and also I'll put a link into the description about some fixes for Windows 8/Windows 10, because if you buy Jagged Alliance under Windows 10 and want to play it, it will not work. You have to change some things. And with the mod it's the same, you have to do some additional fixes for it to work, because it's such an old game. Of course it will have trouble. But yeah, I'll put everything into the description, and if anybody is interested to actually try this, you'll have, I think, no problem. Right, so this is everything, and I hope I'll see you next time when we start our invasion of Arulco. Until then, have a good time and take care.